بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، حياكم الله في المحاضرة الأولى لكورس DS362 ويب بروجرامينج. هذه راح تكون سلايدات سريعة أقدم فيها نفسي أنا المحاضر أو انستراكتور للمادة، الكورس واكسبكتيشنز قبل أن نأخذ المحاضرة الأولى. فبسم الله. معكم محمد بن ناصر الحمادي. خلفيتي في الكمبيوتر ساينس، درست في جامعة الإمام محمد بن سعود الإسلامية باتشلر والماستر في يونيفرسيتي اوف ملبورن في أستراليا، قبل أن أحصل على شهادة الدكتوراه من جامعة مانشستر في بريطانيا. خبرتي بحثية بشكل كبير في مدينة الملك عبد العزيز للعلوم والتقنية منذ عام 2008. أيضا عندي خبرة بحثية أخرى أثناء دراسة الدكتوراه، وكذلك خبرة تدريسية في جامعة مانشستر. بالنسبة للكورس كما تعلمون هو DS362 Web Programming. Teaching period بإذن الله راح تكون من 12th of January until the 1st of May. So we have February, March and April, full 3 months and half. الميد تيرمز راح تكون في الأسبوع من 1 إلى 8 مارش. بالنسبة للإجازات راح يكون في عندنا إجازتين في خلال الترم. الأولى هي إجازة يوم التأسيس من 21 إلى 23 فبراير، وإجازة عيد الفطر المبارك من 23 مارش إلى 5 من أبريل بإذن الله. توزيع الدرجات في الكورس راح يكون بإذن الله 40% للكورس وورك أثناء الترم. من واجبات راح يكون عندنا 2 assignments, quizzes و board discussions. Participation is always of course recommended and highly encouraged. There's going to be one midterm exam 20% من الدرجة، وأخيرا final exam أو project بوزن 40%. طبعا الجريد distribution راح يوضح لنا إن شاء الله بشكل نهائي وبشكل أوضح قريبا. الموديولز اللي راح ناخذها باذن الله راح ناخذ 8 موديولز قبل الميد تيرم اكزام، وبعدها 5 موديولز قبل نهايه الترم. محتويات الماده اللي راح ندرسها ان شاء الله ال HTML, CSS, Cascading Style Sheets, JavaScript, Document Object Model, PHP, Language، واخيرا Ajax. expectations ما اتوقعه منكم خلال هذا الكورس ان شاء الله. اول شيء او ما تتوقعون ايضا مني، التيتشنج راح يكون اللغه راح نستخدم الانجليزي والعربيه، mostly English. طبعا الكونتنت المحتوى كامل بالانجليزي، لكن الالقاء راح يكون بالانجليزي وبالعربي باذن الله مع بعض. الحضور الزامي كما تعلمون، راح يكون في تحضير ان شاء الله. في حال قدومك متاخر please enter the class directly. في حال احتجت انك تخرج او تستأذن، يعني بامكانكم الخروج بشكل هادئ بدون استئذان. من ناحية الانتراكتيفيتي I expect participation, active participation. It is highly recommended as I said. الأسئلة دائما questions are always welcome، لكن نحاول تكون بين transitions of things that we are explaining. إذا كان في انتقال من مفهوم أثناء الشرح أو من درس إلى درس. Otherwise write it down and wait for a transition. plagiarism كما تعلمون غير مسموح نهائيا. نقل الواجبات، نقل المعلومات بدون مصادر، هذا الشيء طبعا الجميع يعرف ان هذا غير مسموح. طيب ماذا عن شات جي بي تي او الجنراتيف اي اي بشكل عام؟ يعني بامكان استخدامه كمساعد، بامكان يعني انه يكون فيه يعني مثلا بروف ريدينج، للتفكير المبدئي، لكن الافكار اللي تكون في الواجبات سواء الاساينمنتس او الميد تيرم او البروجكت تكون من صنع الطالب. هذا هو المتوقع. بما اننا ان شاء الله جاهزين نبدا في الدرس الاول باذن الله، الموديول 1. طيب موديول 1 راح يكون عن introduction to computers and the internet. نتعلم إن شاء الله evolution of the internet and the world wide web, basics عن الويب, multi-tier application architecture, client side scripting versus server side scripting, كيف يكون scripting على الكلاينت وكيف يكون scripting على server side on the server, what are the differences, وأخيرا responsive web design. These are the outcomes, so you should be able to do all of these, learn computer hardware, explain what a web designer does, understand HTML5, CSS3 and JavaScript, and how they are improving web application development. وأخيرا explain responsive web design and why it is important. طيب الكتاب للمادة راح يكون Internet and World Wide Web, How to Program by Detail and Detail. Chapter 1 is the required reading for this week. We recommend also reading chapter 3 which is about learning web design, وأيضا 2 web resources, web designer, job description of the web designer, duties and requirements, وأيضا internet TCP/IP and HTTP concepts, مفاهيم عن TCP/IP protocol, HTTP protocol أيضا. طيب الانترنت كلنا يعرف الانترنت، كلنا نستخدم الانترنت بشكل يومي بشكل دائم أغلبنا. It's a global network of computers، هي عبارة عن شبكة كبيرة من الأجهزة which was made possible by the convergence by تطورات الكمبيوتينج والcommunication technologies. So تقنيات الحوسبة وتقنيات الاتصالات جعلت من الانترنت واقع نعيشه اليوم. بدأت الانترنت أو بدأ الانترنت من جهة اسمها ARPA which is Advanced Research Projects Agency في أمريكا في نهايات الستينات من القرن الماضي. وكانت بسيطة جدا محدودة على funded universities and research institutions، بعض المراكز البحثية وبعض الجامعات اللي كانت مدعومة من قبل ARPA. ARPA proceeded to implement the ARPANET which eventually evolved in today's internet. So ARPA اخترعت شيء اسمه ARPANET وهو الآن اللي أصبح الانترنت في واقعنا في هذا اليوم. So rather than enabling researchers to share each other's computers, it rapidly became clear that communicating quickly and easily via electronic mail was the key early benefit of the ARPANET. أهم فائدة من الARPANET في البداية كان الإلكترونيك ميل، الإيميل، بدلا من أن يتبادل الباحثين أجهزة بعضهم البعض. طيب كان من أهداف ARPANET is to allow multiple users to send and receive information simultaneously. So imagine that you are a user, you want to send to your colleague and at the same time receive from another colleague. So this was a primary goal. If you can imagine, this was in the 60s, this was something that was not there. So simultaneous communication paths was not possible. So this was something important to achieve. الشبكة operated with a technique called packet switching. كان عندنا تكنيك لفعل هذا الشيء اسمه packet switching, where digital data was sent in small bundles. So البيانات كانت تقسم إلى bundles أو قطع صغيرة كانت يطلق عليها packets. The packets contained address, error control and sequencing. يتكون الباكيت من address عنوان و error control جزء لتصحيح الأخطاء اللي في الباكيت و sequencing information. الادرس كان مهمته ان الباكيتس تنتقل الى الشخص المعني بدلا من تذهب لشخص اخر، فنضع في نفس الباكيت عنوان الشخص اللي احنا تماما كما يعني نرسل رسالة في البريد او نرسل رسالة من خلال وسائل التوصيل سواء امازون او فيديكس او غيرها. طيب protocol. What's the protocol? A protocol is a set of rules. هي عبارة عن قوانين هنا للcommunicating over the ARPANET. So قوانين للتواصل عبر الARPANET اللي صنعتها الARPA, and it became known as TCP, وهي اختصار ل Transmission Control Protocol. زي ما قلنا هو protocol set of rules تحدد لنا تناقل المعلومات على هذه الشبكة. TCP ensured that messages were properly routed from sender to receiver, مثل ما ذكرنا في السلايد الماضي. علشان نكون متأكدين أن الباكيت راح ينتقل إلى الشخص المعني، احتاجت أربا تطوير بروتوكول، وهذا البروتوكول سمي Transmission Control Protocol. طيب، مع تطور الانترنت organizations worldwide were implementing their own networks. So كان في شبكات داخلية للجامعات، يعني كل جامعة لها شبكة داخلية خاصة فيها، مثلا الدوائر الحكومية وهكذا. مما صنع intra organization which is within the organization. So any network that is used inside of an organization is called intra-organization. بعدين احنا يعني الخطوة القادمة إن كان connecting these intra-organization networks to form what is called inter-organization. يعني ال connection or communication between the organizations. ولكن one challenge was to get these different networks to communicate. So الآن عندنا الشبكة الأولى في الجهة الأولى، الشبكة الثانية في الجهة الثانية، الشبكة الثالثة في الجهة الثالثة، كيف نجعلهم كلهم يتواصلون؟ ARPA accomplished this with the development of IP, Internet Protocol. يمكن سمعتوا بال IP number. كل جهاز يحمل IP number يعبر عن ال ID لهذا الجهاز على شبكة الإنترنت. By doing the Internet Protocol, we created a network, or ARPA created a network of networks. شبكة من الشبكات. كل الشبكات التي كانت متفرقة أصبح بإمكانها التواصل مع بعضها البعض. وهذا هو current architecture of the Internet. هذا هو المستخدم في يومنا الحالي. The combined set of protocols is now commonly called TCP/IP. So جمعنا Transmission Control Protocol مع الانترنت بروتوكول يصبح لنا TCP/IP، وهذا هو البروتوكول المستخدم على الانترنت لنقل البيانات. So as we said, each computer on the internet has a unique IP address, and we don't mean here only computers, but any device that can be connected to the internet has its own IP address. So your phone has an IP address, your laptop has an IP address, your desktop has an IP address, your tablet or iPad has an IP address, even your smart watch, if it has a connectivity, a Wi-Fi connectivity feature, for example, it has its own IP address, and so on. So the current standard of the Internet Protocol is IPv4. It was established in 1984 and will soon run out of possible addresses. It is based on 32-bit addressing scheme, so it can give us 4 billion, a little bit more than, or 4 billion and 300 million almost IP addresses. As you can imagine, we can run out of these addresses pretty quickly, given that the world population now is 8 billion people. So what was next is IPv6, which has been developed and has been used since 2009, I think. So it features the features of IPv6. The most important features are enhanced security and hugely expanding the number of IP addresses. So here it was limited to less than 5 billion addresses, let's say, and that was not enough. So this one, so with the IPv6 now we can be sure that we will have a lot more than this. So I want you to search for how many IP addresses can IPv6 handle, and you will see a huge whopping number that will amaze you. طيب، في البداية كان استخدام الإنترنت محدود على الجامعات والمراكز البحثية مثل ما ذكرنا. تبنتها بعد ذلك الميليتري اللي هي الجيش الأمريكي، ولكن في النهاية قررت الحكومة الأمريكية أنها تعطي الأكسس to the internet to commercial for commercial purposes للاستخدام التجاري. Bandwidth is a word which means information carrying capacity. So what this communication method is able to communicate or transfer over the internet is called bandwidth, and this is increasing rapidly as costs dramatically decline. So الcost ينزل والباندويث يزيد. بالنسبة للورلد وايد ويب، هي عبارة عن شبكة تمكن computer users to execute web-based applications and locate and view multimedia documents on almost any subject over the internet. So هي تمكننا من استخدام applications web-based والتفاعل مع documents اللي هي ملفات أو مستندات من أي نوع تقريبا. Someone called Tim Berners-Lee of the European Organization for Nuclear Research in 1989 began to develop a technology for sharing information via hyperlinked text documents. Hyperlinked means any text can be a link. So links, what we now know as links, are actually hyperlinks, which means they can connect us to other places, to other documents, and they themselves are connected through other hyperlinks. So this is what creates our World Wide Web. So Berners-Lee called his invention hypertext markup language, which is HTML. You might have heard HTML. HTML is a language used to create this hypertext. Hypertext means it's a text, but it is able to transfer us to another place by clicking on links created in the language. He also wrote communication protocols to form the backbone of his new information system اللي هي الورلد وايد ويب. فهو أيضا صنع البروتوكولز اللي تستخدم في الورلد وايد ويب. مثل إيش؟ مثل ال HTTP. This is a communication protocol used to send information over the web. So الويب هي عبارة عن computers متصلة, links متصلة. The hypertext transfer protocol is the protocol, again the set of rules that enables us to use this hypertext functionality to connect these documents over the internet. Uniform resource locator, what is known shortly as URL, يحدد لنا الادرس أو location of the web page displayed in the browser window. There is a unique URL for each web page on the internet. URLs begin with HTTP or HTTPS, but we will see that. So URLs of websites that handle private information, such as credit card numbers, often begin with HTTPS. So S is the hypertext transfer protocol. Secured or secure is the protocol is a secure protocol that we use for transferring confidential and important information that we don't want people to see or eavesdrop on, like credit card numbers or personal names or ID numbers and so on. So it is the standard for transferring encrypted data. By encrypted, we mean we don't transfer the data in plain way, but we transfer it in a garbled way, so that even if someone sees the data, they will not understand, or they will not be able to get the original data. So how does it work? It combines HTTP, which is what we just said, the hypertext transfer protocol, with secure sockets layer, and the more transport layer security, which is TLS. So these are layers that you will understand in the computer networking course. Okay. Now, let's delve into basics of the web. Hyperlinks. This is what we were just talking about. In its simplest form, a web page is nothing more than an HTML document. So a document written in HTML with the extension of HTML or HTM. So الامتداد الملف للويب pages البسيطة يكون من نوع HTML أو HTM, which describes to a web browser يخبر المتصفح عن محتوى الدوكيمنت وعن structure، عن كيف هو مبني. So HTML documents normally contain hyperlinks داخل ال HTML. في العادة في الغالب هناك hyperlinks مثل ما قلنا انها تودينا من صفحة إلى صفحة. When clicked, load a specified web document. You have to click it, so it takes you to the other document. So both images and text can be hyperlinked, but now even inside of videos you can have hyperlinks. For example, what we see in YouTube, where you click on the next recommended video at the end of a video. So this is a hyperlink that takes you to the next video. When the user clicks a hyperlink, a web server locates the requested web page and sends it to the web browser. So what happens when you click a hyperlink is that the web server, something called web server, looks up the location of the web page address that you clicked on, and tells your browser to it tells your browser to go there, or it gives your browser the content of that web page. Similarly, the user can type the address of a web page. So instead of clicking, بدل ما نضغط على اللينك, we can type it. بإمكاننا إدخاله بشكل يدوي إلى البراوزر في الأدرس field and press enter to view the specified page. Hyperlinks can reference other web pages, email addresses, files, and more. So الهايبرلينك ليس مقتصر فقط على الويب pages, ولكن ممكن ينقلنا إلى إلى email addresses, مثل إذا استخدمنا mail to, and then we add our email here or someone else's email. So mail to someone@gmail.com. If you click on it, it will use your mail client to send a message to that person. So clicking the link loads your default email program, yes, the client, and opens a message window. So it creates a new message where you type in whatever you would like to send. في حالة إن الhyperlink references a file in the background, that the browser is incapable. So let's talk about if it's capable. So if it's a file, for example, text file or a Word or a PDF file, if your browser knows how to display a PDF, then it will display the PDF inside of the browser. If it knows how to display text, and almost all of the browsers know how to do that, then they will display the text file. But imagine that they link to something more sophisticated like a Photoshop file. If it's incapable of displaying it on the browser prepares to download the file. So it will instead of viewing it, it will start downloading it. Okay, so URIs and URLs. Uniform Resource Identifier is used to identify resources on the internet. So it's a mechanism, it's a way of identifying resources on the internet. So each server has a URI, each computer has a URI. As we said each computer has a URI. So URIs that start with HTTP are called URLs. uniform resource locators. So uniform resource locators are a type of URIs. A URL contains information that directs a browser to the resource that the user wishes to access. For example, HTTP s and then / www.google.com is the URL of Google website. Web servers make such resources available to web clients. So you know that Google is google.com and so on, all of the popular websites. And then popular web servers include, so there are web servers, popular ones. The most popular ones are Apache's HTTP server and Microsoft's Internet Information Services, IIS. So an example of a URL is http www.detail.com/books/downloads.html. This is the HTML document that we were just describing. So the text http : indicates that we are using the hypertext transfer protocol, the HTTP that we just described, to get the resource, or to obtain the resource. Next in the URL is the server's fully qualified host name, which is www.detail.com. This is called the fully qualified host name. Okay, so it takes you to a computer which is the host, because it houses, so the host houses or contains, or the content of the detail.com website lives on that host. Now the host name www.detail.com is translated into an IP address in the background. So for example, 192.178.5.2, this is what is in the background of the detail.com. It's a numerical value that uniquely identifies the server on the internet. So this is unique. لا يمكن أن تتكرر لأي IP address آخر. لا يمكن أن تتكرر لأي موقع آخر. Okay. Who does this connection? Something called domain name system, and it's a server. خادم maintains and a database of host names and their corresponding IP addresses. So DNS is the thing that you give www.google.com, www.detail.com, and so on, and it does this conversion from the URL name to the IP address of the host. Now, the remainder of the URL, which is /books/downloads, specifies the resource's location, the directory. So books here is a directory, and then name is and downloads.html is the name of the document that you are trying to view or download. So the location could represent an actual directory. So this, as we said, it could be an actual directory on the web server, but for security reasons, the location is typically a virtual directory. So if you go to the web server, you might not see a books directory, an actual directory called books. It could be just virtual. So the web server translates the virtual directory into a real location on the server, thus hiding the resources through location. This is for security reasons. So what happens is basically your computer, you type what we just typed, which is here, detail.com, books downloads HTML, in something called get, the URL using HTTP version 1.1, the host is this, the port is this, and the path and the path is inside of the headers, which we will see later. It goes to the server, so the server maps the URL to a file or program under the document directory, and it sends you the response. Response is also in form HTTP 1.1 200, which is the status of the response, and a something meaningful, which is okay. So we found here's a meaningful response to your request. Then the browser takes this response and displays it as a web page. So making a request and receiving a response. Again, the web client, which is your computer or your laptop or your iPad or your phone, connects to the internet, connects to the web server through the internet. Now it uses what we said, a GET. So in the request, in the HTTP request, we firstly start with GET or POST. We will see the POST. GET, and then we give it the location, okay, the location of the document of the web document that we want to see, and then we also specify the protocol using the hypertext transfer protocol and the version of that protocol, which is 1.1. Okay. And then that request also has what is called headers. So some headers are required, some headers are optional, and we will see an example. On the other hand, once a request has been done or has been sent to the server is obligated to reply to the web client. So it will reply to you. If you send to Google will reply to you with its web page. So here the responses are HTTP 1.1, again the version 200, which is the code, the status code of the response, and then something meaningful. Here indicates success. So okay means all good. Okay. So 404, this is a status code, and what does it mean? It means it's not found. So if you, for example, want this downloads.html and it's not on the web server, then the web server will say 404 not found. I could not find this on the place that you're trying to access. Now the headers, we said something about the headers. The server sends one or more HTTP headers. What are they? They provide additional information about the data. So they send you the data and some information to describe what this data is. So when the server is sending an HTML5 text document, one HTTP header is content type. So this is a key or a variable, and it's telling us the type of the content that I'm sending you is text or HTML. This happens with HTML5. This is just an example. We will see other examples. The header or set of headers is followed by a blank line. So at the end, there's a blank line. Why? So that the client browser knows that the server is finished. So this is the end of my response to you. Okay. Now this is an example of the header. The request header is sent by the client. Is sent again by your phone, sent by your browser, sent by your laptop, sent by your iPad, and it has GET. GET here, it's like a command from your phone to the web server, and it's telling it to give me the root directory. Okay, use HTTP protocol version 1.1. The host, what's the host? Where do you want me to go? Go to this exact place, msaleh.co.cc. My agent is Mozilla. This is its version, and so on. What do I accept? I accept everything, and then close the connection. It's telling the web server, this is my request. Now the web server is going to say, here is your response. So here's my response. My response uses HTTP 1.1 again. The status is okay, I found it. This is the date where I'm sending you the response. My server is Apache. This is my version. This is my operating system. Last modified, so the last date of modification of that of the response that I'm giving you is this day and this time exactly. We will see what this means or why this is used, and then other stuff expires. It tells you when this response expires, content length. So what you should expect a length of 976, and then you should expect my response to be in text / HTML, text / plain, and image JPEG. So expect, please, dear browser, that you sent me the request that my response is in these type. The content of my responses is in this type. Now, MIME stands for Multi-Purpose Internet Mail Extension, and information provided in the header specifies the MIME type of the content that the server is transmitting. As we just said, MIME is just this content type. So it's either text or plain. This is an example, or it could be image and JPEG and so on. I leave it to you to see other examples. Now, HTTP GET and POST. We saw GET. What is POST? Or let's dive deeper. Into the GET request first. So GET simply gets you or retrieves the information from a server. So I want this HTML document, which is an image, or I want Google to give me search results, and so on. So search results are in text or plain format. There's another request, which is of kind POST. What does that mean? It means I want to send some information. I don't want to get any information from you, server. I want to send some information to you. Okay, so when is this typically used? It is used with when you are sending form data. What are form data? So imagine you're registering to a website, you're registering to create a new email address, or you're registering for a service, or you type in your username, your password, your name, your first name, your last name, your address, your age, and so on. You send it with a POST request. Or if you are uploading documents to the servers, then you send it with POST. Now, an HTTP request often posts data to a server-side form handler. So the form handler is something that checks your information that you just posted to the website, or to the web server. So GET requests and POST requests can both be used to send data to a web server, but each request type sends the information differently. Okay, how do they send it? How do they send it? So a GET request appends data to the URL. So if this is the URL, if we go to google.com and then we say /search, this is the page, and then these are the variables that we are sending. So we want Google to search for detail. The query, Q, is the key or the variable. The variable here means the query. What are we querying? What are we searching? We are searching for detail. So search is the name of the Google server-side form handler. This is what we said. It handles this. Imagine this is a kind of a form, but in GET request. Okay. Q is the name of the variable, as we said. Detail is the search term. This is what we wanted to search for. The question mark separates the query string from the rest of the URL. So when you see the question mark, you know what's after it is the query string. What's before it is the URL. Okay. Now a name value pair is passed to the server with the name and the value separated by an equal sign. So here you can see Q and detail. This is a name and value, or variable and value, or key and value. They're all used interchangeably. And then what if we want to send, for example, to Google, we want you to search for detail, and I want it to be published only in 2023. So I say Q equals detail, and then I say and here, which is this one, and for example, year equals 2023, and so on. All right. So a POST request sends form data as part of HTTP message, not as part of the URL. So what is the difference here? The difference is that your information sent in the POST request do not appear in the URL. They are embedded in the HTTP message or the request, so it's not visible to the user. A GET request typically limits the query string, so there's something also to keep in mind. GET requests are short, or they have a limit on the amount of characters that you send, whereas the post method is preferred. Why? Because it hides the submitted data and it has no limit, almost no limit. So if a form submits several hidden input values along with user submitted data, the post method might generate a URL. So here, if we look at this, the form data still reaches the server and is processed in a similar fashion to get a request, but the user does not see the exact information sent. These are examples. Okay, now client-side caching. You might have heard of the cache. So a cache is just a way to save information on the disk on the client side, so on your phone, on your laptop, again on your tablet, on your iPad, which saves the recently viewed web pages. Why? For quick reloading. So if there are no changes between the version stored in the cache and the current version, this speeds up your browsing experience. So if you go to google.com now and then you go to google.com again after 1 minute, most likely you're going to get the older version, the cached version, the saved version on your machine, because most likely Google did not change in 5 minutes. That requires another pull of information. So an HTTP response can indicate the length of time for which the content remains fresh. So if you remember here, if we go up and we say last modified is this time, and then so the last modified is the time. Oh yes, so the last modified is, if we check the last modified time and then we compare it to the cached version and it's the same, then we don't need to get another or a more fresh version, because the content are the same. So if this amount of time has been reached, the browser loads the document from the cache. So there's also here expires. So it expires on at this time. After this time, please bring me the new version of that page that is on the server. Do not use the cache. So browsers typically do not cache the server's response to a post. Why? Because the next post might not return the same result. So again, imagine you are creating your account on any server, on Google, again, Gmail. Each time you create an account, you are likely to send new information different from the previous information. So you create one account, of course it has to be different from the other account. So there's no point in caching the post requests, since they are always changing. So this is a depiction of what happens in the caching. So browser requests a server some information from the server responds with the information, the browser caches. So the cache is always on the client side. Okay, right. Multi-tier application architecture. So what do we mean by that? So the web-based applications have 3-tier applications, and by that we mean it contains of layers, or what we call tiers, or what we call درجات or طبقات. So web applications are multi-tier, n-tier. The functionality is divided between the tiers. So there is the client tier in the browser, again your phone, your tablet, your laptop, and then there's the middle tier, which is the business logic tier. Then there's the information tier or the data tier. So the browser, so there are 3 tiers. the browser takes care of the display. It gathers the input and displays the output. The middle tier or the business logic tier on the server takes care of the interactions, controls the interactions between the application client and its data. So as you can see, it's in the middle between the client and the data. So that client requests a query, as we said, for detail from Google. Google goes to the database and gets all of the information about detail from its database and sends it back to the browser. So it's in the middle. And then finally, the last tier is the applications data. So the bottom tier or the information tier or the data tier maintains the applications data. So it keeps it and updates it and takes care of it. Right. Scripting. So what is the difference between client-side scripting and server-side scripting? What happens on the client side, which is your phone, your tablet, your laptop, again, always think that, and then the server. On the client side, we use JavaScript, and we use it to validate input. We use it to also interact with the browser, enhance web pages, add client-server communication between the browser and the web server. So these are mostly the uses, but we can also do client and server communication from the JavaScript. So client-side scripts have limitations, such as browser dependency. So some browsers may support JavaScript, some versions of JavaScript, or some types of scripts built using JavaScript, and some might not. So this is a limitation. Right. So scripts are restricted. Why? Always think for security reasons. So what do we mean by restricted? They are restricted from accessing local hardware and file systems. So they cannot. So any JavaScript running on your browser, on your Chrome browser, for example, or Mozilla Firefox or Safari, they cannot access the file system or the local hardware. They can. So another issue is that client-side scripts can be viewed by the client. So any information. So sensitive information like passwords, they are not, or other personally identifiable data like names or ID numbers, they're not saved on the client, again for security and privacy reasons. Cool. So now, in comparison to this, we have server-side scripting, which are the scripts run on the server, not on the client. Okay, so we have servers. We use languages to run. We use programming language to run some business logic. So programmers do that. They have the flexibility to run scripts. What do these scripts do? They generate custom responses for the client. So a client might connect to an airline. So ممكن تروح لموقع السعودية.com مثلا, and then you search for flights to Boston from this date to that date. Again, what happens is that the server goes and queries the database, looks for available flights, and then it returns an HTML document containing the flight list. عندنا يوم كذا, تاريخ كذا, ساعة كذا, بسعر كذا, وهكذا. So this technology allows clients to obtain the most current flight information. Why? Because in the logic, in the server, on the server, there was a script that said, give me the most recent and available flights between these two dates. This is what we mean by custom. So you user one, Muhammad or Ahmed, someone might be searching for April 19 to May 5th. So they will get this exact result set, but Noura or someone else might be looking from the 2nd of April till the 10th of May, so she will get another set of results, and so on. Server-side scripting languages have a wider range of programmatic capabilities. هنا في حرية أكبر، في قوة أكبر لسكريبت أكثر من الكلاينت سايد جافا سكريبت scripts. So what languages do I need to learn? It will depend, of course, on the role that you have in the web design process. So there's HTML, as we said. We have CSS, which we will learn. JavaScript also will learn. Server-side languages. HTML, as we said, it specifies the content and the structure of what we see on the page. The CSS, which is the cascading style sheets, they control the presentation. So what colors you see, what fonts you see, what spaces, position, and so on. JavaScript makes things dynamic. So it makes the web pages dynamic. So they can be modified on the fly. What's the opposite of dynamic? Static. So static pages that do not change. These are the content that is not created by JavaScript. JavaScript makes things dynamic, for example, and in response to user input, and so on. وأخيرا, on the server side, there are many languages that create web applications, such as PHP, Python, Ruby, JavaScript, Java, and ASP.NET. These are just examples, of course. Alright, so W3C Worldwide Web Consortium. Tim Berners-Lee also founded an organization called World Wide Web Consortium, or what is known as W3C. What is the purpose of this? It is focused on developing non-proprietary interoperable technologies for the World Wide Web. Non-proprietary means it's not for sale. Interoperable means they connect multiple systems that do not use the same technology. So they can connect Unix machines to Windows machines to Apache servers to other servers and so on. So one of its primary goals is to make the web universally accessible, regardless of disability, language, or culture. تزيد من استخدام الإنترنت للجميع بغض النظر عن whether they are disabled, لغتهم أو ثقافتهم. It is a standards organization. What does that mean? Web programming standardized by the W3C are called recommendations. It recommends, it makes standards. So when you have a standard, W3C tells you this is the standard that I think is the best, so please use it. It's a recommendation. I recommend this. So for HTML, the version recommended by W3C is HTML5. For CSS, it's CSS3, and it also recommends using XML for information exchange. We will see that inshallah. So Web 2.0 going social. So the difference between Web 1.0 and Web 2.0. Web 1.0 was was from the early internet until early 2000s, and it focused on relatively small number of companies and advertisers. Some people call it brochure web. Web 2.0 involves users creating the content, but not only creating the content, they help even organize it, share it, remix it, critique it, update it, and so on. So if we compare Web 1.0 to Web 2.0, Web 1.0 is like a lecture where a small number of professors, a professor or a lecturer, is informing or talking to a large audience of students. So it's mostly one way. But in Web 2.0, it's like a conversation where many people are participating. Everyone's having the opportunity to speak and share views. Yeah, so Web 2.0 is embracing an architecture of participation. المشاركة فيه مهمة. الجميع يشارك. اليوزر والشركة أو الموقع أو مقدم خدمة. So now in Web 2.0, people are also not only searching for, they're using the search engines, but they are tagging, they are actually tagging content, labeling content. So when you write when you have a hashtag in your tweet, you are essentially telling some machine or some code or some scripts that this is the content that I have. This is the nature or a label or an identifier of the content that I have. In the future, computers will learn to understand meaning of the data on the web through what is called semantic web, but this is something that's happening already now. All right, responsive web design, and I think that is going to be the last thing we'll have. So web design includes many different skills and disciplines. هناك مهارات عديدة في الويب design. Over the past years, web design has become a catch-all for a process that encompasses a number of different disciplines: user experience design, document markup, serious programming. So we'll take all of these. So a web design can separate into 4 broad categories: design, التصميم, development, and نفس الcoding, content, strategy. So تطوير الاستراتيجية والمالتي ميديا اللي هي الصور والفيديو وغيره. So if we take design, so what we mean by design: identify the site's goals first, أهداف الموقع, how it will be used, كيف راح تستخدم, من هم المستخدمين, how visitors move through the site, ما هي رحلة تنقل المستخدم خلال الموقع. So التاسكس الموجودة تحت الديزاين في interaction design, في user interface design, UI, user experience design, UX. So for interaction design, you make sure that the site is easy, efficient, and delightful. User interface design, you make sure it's functional. It focuses on functional organization. So not only the organization, how it looks, but the functional organization. So the buttons, the links, the menus, they are functional. أخيرا, user experience design ensures that the site is favorable. So usually what people think of when they hear web design, they think it's just how it looks, how things look. But here if we see, delightful and favorable are just used twice, whereas easy, efficient, functional, organization were used more. So it is about how it works more than, or side by side with how it looks too. So what does a web designer do? Web designers do many things. They start with research. They do research on the user, and they do testing too. So they start with what is called user-centered design. So the user is at the center of their design. They have the user always on mind. So they do interviews, they do observations. So يقابلون اليوزرز أو يدعونهم إلى اللاب ويجعلونهم يستخدمون بعض المنتجات ويراقبون تفاعلهم معه. أيضا يختبرون التفاعل في عدة مراحل. Wireframe diagrams, so they create, these are just a show of the structure of the web page. This is not a real web page, just a mock-up called sometimes, to understand how the web page will look like before it is developed. After that, they also do site diagrams, so the structure of the site, which is this one. So the home page starts here. There is a frequently asked question page. There's an email form for questions, for example. There's an information page and so on. They also create storyboards and user flowcharts. So this is usually a journey of a user, of a typical user on the website. So they start from this page, they click on this, they go to this, and then they go to this, and so on. So they create a journey for the user. They also do virtual and graphic design, which is what everyone is thinking about. So they create the logos, they create the graphics, they create the colors, the layout, and they ensure users have a good impression and that impression is consistent with the brand and the message of the organization. So they should also know what is the organization's message, so that it is conveyed in the design. So I think that's the final one, which is the front end and the back end design. So the front end design is any aspect of the design process that appears on the browser. So this is what we mean by the front end. So any graphic design, any image production, when you create images, when you design the buttons, the colors, the placement, the flow of information, even the HTML documents, the CSS files, as we said, the JavaScript, that's all on the front end. So anything that the user interacts with is the front end. Then we have the back end, which is the programs that run on the server behind the scenes. So users don't usually know what goes on here. The developer or the web developer is the one who knows this, who creates this and maintains it. So it is forms processing. When you send your information through forms, database programming, so adding things to the database, deleting things from the database, updating things, and so on. Content management system, so the content on the web server, and then the server-side web application using programming languages. Finally, responsive web design is a strategy for dealing with unknown screen size. So when you don't know the screen size, so most browsers on small devices such as smartphones, your phone or tablet, they shrink the content of the web page. Why? To fit the screen. So the content of your laptop, the size of your laptop screen is a lot bigger than the size of your phone screen, so things will look differently, and this is called responsive web design. That might make text this might make text appear too small, links too small. Also, to select zooming and panning around is disturbing or disrupting. So responsive web design is a strategy for providing custom layouts to devices based on the size of the viewport. So as we said, the content displayed depends on the size of the screen. So serving a single HTML document to all devices, but applying different style sheets. So the HTML document is the same, but using style sheets, we change how it looks on different screens. So why? This helps with matter of layout. So it is not a solution to all mobile web design challenges. It is just a layout solution. Creating the best experience overall, not only just the layout, may require optimization that go beyond adjusting the look and feel. That is all for this module 1. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to send me or in the discussion forums. I'll see you in the next module, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.